Well, it's 34 minutes past 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Media Roundtable. Today is the 19th day of October 2018. My name is Solomon Seranja. We want to say a warm welcome to all those who are watching us online in the diaspora and back home here. The team here is laughing. I'll tell you why they were laughing before we came on air. All right, so it's been a very mixed reaction week. Jennifer Museveni resigning as executive director of the authority. We also had landslides in Bududa. The resettlement plan has been approved and it's in motion, but the people in Bududa there say you're not taking us away from Bududa, we'll keep within the precincts there. But also we'll be throwing some light on other stories, including the land evictions that are going on in Lusanja. What is really happening? So we'll be digging deeper into that aspect. Again, it's good to have you watching. My name is Solomon Seranja. Let me introduce my panelists this morning. Njala has already started writing, by the way.
No, this time I'm writing. Trust me, I'm holding my paper tight.
I wanted to show the people what you've just written. All right, Simon Kangwanjala, he hosts the Morning Breeze show. He's a veteran journalist. Simon, it's good to have you on the Media Roundtable.
Nice to have you.
Joseph Sabiti, man from Zombo and from West Nile.
Where you don't do those manyanga.
It's good to have you, Joseph.
I feel very threatened here because
No, we will not say what we
Joseph Kanji,
say
communications
what
expert. Good to have you, Joe, on the show.
Solomon.
It's
Good
always a
morning.
pleasure. Mildred Tuhaise, senior
lecturer.
journalist. Lecturer.
She lectures public officials on air.
Okay.
Not me. He actually meant Joe. Not me. He meant Josephine.
Mildred Tuhaise is a journalist with NBS Television, but she also hosts the Morning Breeze show.
bully of the round table.
And also a bully of the Media Roundtable.
Don't say what Joseph says. You know he's...
And Samson Kasumba,
The old man.
the old man in the
Mzee.
philosophical corner.
The judge.
The man with swag. All right, so guys, let's get the show started. I hope I don't fall. Okay, so let's get the show started, guys. Let's start with some news of the resignation of Jennifer Museveni after spending close to 7 years at the helm of the Kampala Capital City Authority. Achievements and challenges first, and the legacy that she leaves behind, and the reactions that has been coming through. And we saw the Lord Mayor chest thumping and celebrating, literally singing, on public TV and on national TV, saying he's very happy that he knew this day would come, and it eventually came. So let's throw some lights on what happened. I'll start with Samson Kasumba. You've been following this story closely. What do you make of Jennifer Museveni's resignation as executive director of the authority?
First of all, I couldn't be prouder of Jennifer Museveni and couldn't be more excited of a human being for what she has done to transform a city of very stubborn people. I come from Kampala, and my dad also comes from the same place. My dad was born here. He's now in his 70s. In my 40s, I was born here. So this is home. I'm very passionate about home because for me, unlike many other people, over Christmas, when the rest go to where they came from, we have nowhere else to go. That's why, for me, Kampala matters. And it is unfortunate that persons who should be managing this place responsibly have deliberately decided that nothing will work, because if it works, somebody else will take credit. And so politics has become more important than public order, which is a shame. And because politics has become more important than public order, that's where you get individuals celebrating and singing songs, which is unfortunate. I'm not so much interested in traditions and things, but I've had people who come from certain places saying that as an individual from a certain place, singing over these matters should never have been done. I interviewed the former mayor, Nasantege Sebagala, and you could tell that he doesn't agree with some of the things the Lord Mayor is doing. I don't think I agree with what the Lord Mayor is doing. I think he has taken the position that order no longer matters, and what matters is politics. I will tell you that I think that Jennifer Museveni ever since the president said that she was responsible for his losses, she suffered a sucker punch and continued to show up in the office no longer inspired, but just putting up an appearance. And I think she tried more than once to resign. She just had to resign now because I think the moment was right. 3 things I will finish with. If you know Jennifer Musisi very well and how passionate she was at the City Festival, and you watched that day when she faced the cameras calling off the City Festival, I think in that show she was telling people, this is not me calling this off. Somebody has told me to call it off against my will. And then 2, shortly after that, she went visiting the gorillas. Now that is somebody who is no longer themselves and is looking for something that can put them together. So this resignation was long coming. I'm glad it did. I believe in resignations. I've written several of those. For me, if you have values that you stick to, and if you believe and you know that you are employable elsewhere, why stick in a place where you are trying too hard to convince people you are working when they don't want you? Go elsewhere.
Well, there are very many of us who think, Jennifer Musisi has been one of the highest paid, I don't know if I should call her a public servant.
But her pay was inflated.
Yeah, but
If you look at her pay slip, it was inflated beyond what it actually was.
well, that is at least,
Okay.
she has been earning 40, actually according to public service documents, she has been paid 44 million. 44 million shillings per month.
Figures.
As in, you go at the end of the month and put in your ATM and it reflects 44 million shillings added on your account. I mean, that's a job many of us
Can she be paid more than that elsewhere?
Many of us wouldn't resign from such a job. But Simon, thanks for your submissions, Samson. Simon, I thought we would look at the reasons that she put in the resignation. Some of the reasons that can form a strong foundation for our discussion this morning. Part of it is a lack of support from the political wing to support the technical wing to achieve its targets. And she mentioned that. The other issues is she said that KCC is unable to fully meet the government and public expectations in city development and program service delivery demands due to inadequate funding. So she also highlights the issue of funding. And the third reason she gives is that we currently have inadequate permanent staff on the account of budget limitations, resulting in prolonged temporary terms of service and job insecurity for some of the officials. This has led to demotivation and high turnover of highly qualified skilled staff. In addition, staff are not adequately facilitated in terms of tools, equipment, and vehicles. So those are some of the reasons that she gave in her resignation. But I think the biggest one is lack of political support from the political wing of the authority.
Well, I treated that as political interference at first because she's forever been crying foul about how politicians are really trying to bring her down. But while I share some of the sentiments of Samson Kasumba when it comes to resignation, that it's a personal initiative, when you feel you're uncomfortable with the place, just get out. I get this feeling that Jennifer had stayed in there too long and perhaps she never read her job description pretty well. If she went in as a technical person, she must have ended up becoming a politician inside City Hall. Look at her tenure from 2010, 2011. You would imagine that from day one, she was destined to fail, to hound Lukwago. And when Lukwago was ousted out of City Hall, you saw the jubilation, you saw he was being looked at as a problem at KCCA. So therefore, that to us opened our eyes. Then we realized that the person we're dealing with, myself and people who think like me, then we realized that she was doing a political job. And again, it is very strange for Jennifer Musisi to come out and say, well, she's not had political support. Look at the praises that have been heaped. She's been in the good books of the regime.
Until 2016.
Unlike cows, unlike town clerks who were there during the KCCA reign. Jennifer Musisi has belonged to the axis of influence. And when she resigned, it got me thinking, how come the president's girls, sorry I'm using that phrase deliberately, are failing at this rate?
Simon, allow me to chip in here because I don't think you can go away with that. With lack of political will from the political support from the political wing, we all know what Jennifer Musisi has been going through to have her budgets approved by the council. You know that Lukwago detests her.
You tell me how many council meetings Jennifer has attended.
No, besides that,
to account.
You think she just didn't wake up in the morning and say, I'll not attend those council meetings?
She was simply adamant.
No,
she was
because
simply adamant.
You must put some historical perspective to this, Njala.
Without writing
because
an
the
explanation.
person of KCC, I mean, you're elected. Look at Jennifer Musisi's tenure, the first time she came into office, and sort of give us a chronology of how all this thing grew.
She despised Lukwago from day one.
How?
If you remember the events at the swearing-in ceremony, I just invite you to go and look at the swearing-in ceremony.
What happened?
And how Jennifer addressed Lukwago. You know, a person who's been popularly elected deserves some high respect, high ground.
How could that have been done?
Now, the clash came in where Jennifer knew.
No, Njala, he's getting away with what happened at the swearing.
What happened?
Just fill us in.
This is why I'm challenging you to go, just go and look at that video.
But people are watching. People are watching. All of them are videos.
Listen to me.
You know, when you...
I am not going to get to delve into details.
No, because
No,
you see,
the
you
viewers need to know.
Okay.
Njala, you
Yes.
reference the
Yeah, you
story
won't
and
get
you're
away
trying
with
to
this,
build
Njala,
your
yes.
argument here. So we're giving you an
You won't
opportunity
get away
for
with
you
this
to
one.
tell us.
Yes.
Yes.
Go look at the speech. The maiden speech she made at Lukwago's swearing-in
What
ceremony.
were the highlights that attracted you?
I'm challenging you to go and look at it.
And the
But
viewers.
it's not about us. It's about the viewers
Well,
as well.
I
Go ahead
challenge
and
the
educate
viewers
them.
to go and look at the video.
Matter settled.
Okay.
That's why it all started, by the way. From day one. From day
Njala,
one.
just a quick one before I can move to another panelist. From the time Jennifer Musisi came in office, do you as a person feel that the political wing of the authority has been supportive to her to help her pass the budgets and approve her works, for her to implement the technical services?
There's been no love lost. They've never had cordial working relations. When you look at what Jennifer was doing backdoor,
What do you mean?
to aid the censure, you remember the trips that she sponsored?
So it was
of
backdoor and
councillors?
you knew?
Yes, it was backdoor.
is supposed
And we
to
got to know. And we got to know.
And still backdoor.
The things that happened at Entebbe, you remember? The meeting
What
that
happened?
happened
What
happened?
at Entebbe. No, listen to me. Can I make my point?
Okay, please.
Everything that was employed to fail Lukwago, the workshops that were being held in Entebbe, with just one intention, how to oust Lukwago, to throw him out of office.
What was in them?
How to compromise councillors. How to compromise councillors to defy everything that came from Lukwago, Elias Lukwago. So, you can naturally say Jennifer Musisi knew she was in there for one task, much as Hajirdi was speaking something totally different. She was in there to fail the opposition.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. I'm going to Josephine, but as I go to Josephine, I want you to ponder on you are a journalist and supposed to do your job, but you don't get support to do your job. So you know how it feels when you're not being given the opportunity to do your job. To be approved by the...
And she always bypassed council and preferred the Presidential Affairs Committee to do the job for her.
We'll come to that. Let me bring in Josephine.
Solomon, if somebody premises an argument on a fallacy, there's very little you can
No, there is no fallacy here. There's no fallacy. Go do your homework.
We will come back to that. But Josephine, let me bring you in on this matter. What are your thoughts on Jennifer's resignation?
I think Simon has said a lot of things. But, you know, I like to dig down into the trenches. Let's start from the beginning, right? So you have an executive director all of a sudden, right? You have KCCA all of a sudden. I say all of a sudden, not that the government didn't think about it, but to us, the public, it wasn't something we had thought about, right? So we have this new animal called KCCA. You have somebody called the executive director, right? She has a role to play. She's given her JD. She's told this, she's told that. Now, first things first, she was working with a team who, at that time, let us all agree, regardless of political, KCC wasn't working.
True.
And how do we know it wasn't working? Not because we were inside KCCA building or City Hall, but because we could see by their fruits. The Bible says you'll see them by their fruits, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so KCC wasn't working. So then the appointing authority decides, let me get somebody who, by the way, had retired. Yeah. I want to emphasize retired, capital letters retired. Yes. Which means by the time somebody retired, they're prepared for retirement. They're going to do other things, okay? So you call them and say, help us out. That's really what it is. Yes. Because I've retired, okay? I'm no longer interested.
Same with Kajima.
Right? Yeah. So you've called them out of retirement and you want them to do a specific job, okay? You've told them to come to KCCA, but they do not have a technical team that she can work with. So what did she do? She poaches people from URA, okay? So she gets those people and puts it temporarily, right? And you cannot... Right, and you cannot bring them at salaries lower than what they were earning before. I mean, even if it were I. Why would I leave my workplace to go to a place where I'm earning much less? Right. And yet I'm skilled. So that starts there. So let's put that on the side. And then we have to ask ourselves, this business of being a mayor. I like to read history a lot. And from what I understand, the mayor was not an elected position previously.
Yes.
Right? Under Mr. Kulubia, it was not an elected position. And it's in many countries, I think, it's not an elected position. Am I correct? Yes. In a lot of countries. It's the normal thing. A mayor is ceremonial, they do this, they do that, they do that. And I think there's something to be said of that. Now, let's look at Mr. Lukwago, or Honorable Lukwago. Maybe I should call him that. He came in, and you referenced the speech, Jennifer's speech. Personally, I didn't see anything wrong with that speech at all, personally.
And
but that was, and I felt that they were talking she was talking to him as a colleague, not so much as my boss. I don't know how to explain. Like, if I'm talking about, Simon, it was a cordial sort of speech. It wasn't very formal and stiff, which I liked. I thought it was going to be a good thing. But at the same time, you're looking at, when the mayor came, I'm trying to scratch my head and think, since day one when the mayor came, because Simon, you keep talking about day one, what happened? In the first place, why? No. In the first place, why would somebody leave a constituency and suddenly turn around and want to become Kampala mayor? He didn't just dream it up. There is a reason. So the question is, what was that reason? Now, I'm not in his head. But I can tell by his actions. From the first day, City Hall now became a launching pad for FDC activities or defiance activities. This is all I recall. A mayor in the street. How can I have the mayor, my mayor, okay? Because I may not be FDC, walking around on a defiance campaign, not once, not twice, in scuffles, what? I honestly cannot remember.
But let's not forget he's a politician too.
But you see, yes, you're a politician, but you have left your constituency, okay, where you can be all political like you want, and come to be a mayor, a non-political position, as far as I'm concerned. Do you see what I'm saying? So then you have, no, it is not a contradiction, because as a mayor, you're the mayor of everybody. As an MP, right? You have your constituency as it is, and they chose you knowing your political stripes. You see what I'm saying? But as my mayor, I don't need you to be DP or anything else. I want you to be my mayor, okay? And do all the things that will make my city worth living in. Now, let us look at the record. And you cannot keep constantly saying, oh, the council didn't do this, or the council didn't do that, or the council didn't do that. I am sorry to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Lukwago failed himself from day one, because there is no government in history who is going to sit back and watch a mayor walk around and be part of a defiance campaign. Where? It's not possible, because that government also has its interests. And its interests are, hello, we want a capital city that works.
Do you think?
What is the role of the mayor?
Jala. Okay. Do you then think, Josephine, that Lukwago could be possibly one of the reasons why Jennifer Musisi left? Or the fact that Lukwago was not supporting the technical wing, as she alleges, that there was no political support to help her achieve her targets.
You see, Jennifer, from what I can tell, had found a way, reluctantly, I must say, because there was no reason to dislike Lukwago in the first place. Yes. What for? What did he have that she didn't have? You understand? Because you see, there must be a basis for dislike. Okay? And for somebody to come out and start to do things that fail your work, even if it were me. If you start failing my work, you're my enemy. Automatically. It's nothing personal. Right? This is from a professional level. Now, we're going to talk about councillors, we're going to talk about cities, we're going to talk about all this. But at the end of the day, it's not about the person, the loudest gong that makes the most noise being the correct one. We have a mayor who's so used to riling up emotions and talking in public and all this and this and this and this, and we don't take time to really pay attention to what is he really saying and why is he saying it, and is it the truth in the first place?
All right.
Just because he has a platform to speak doesn't mean that he's the right person or he's saying the truth all the time. Okay?
All right.
Now, hold on one second. Simon, you talked about the issue of salaries and all this other stuff.
First.
The role of the mayor in this city, as it stands right now, right? As far as in my layman's terms, is to make my city better. That's the role of my mayor, to make my city better. That's in layman's terms, as in I didn't go to school terms, to make my city better. Has my mayor made my city better in any way? Has he contributed anything towards making my city better?
Has he played an oversight role?
Yeah? An oversight role of what? You see, you cannot come to council meetings, you have a different agenda, you want this one to come and do this. You have a job to do. Can we do that job first? Make sure that the executive is doing the work they're supposed to do. And as far as I'm concerned, I said we see them by their fruits.
All right, let me bring in Joseph here. Because interesting thoughts coming through. And this is, that's why the world is colorful. Diverging views and opinions. Joseph, weigh in on Jennifer's resignation.
I'm going to, my thoughts are sort of in between what Josephine is saying and Njala's arguments. I want to say this, that there has been this argument that KCCA is not happening because of the central government control and things like that. But I want to tell you that as a village boy, I came to a messy city run by the Democratic Party allied politicians. The city was messy. Njala will say they had no budget, but I can tell you that I have been to the Gulu district local government run by Martin Ojara Mapenduzi of the FDC, who at some point appointed an NRM person as the vice chairman of the district. And I can tell you that when you look at the local government scorecard with the little money, Gulu district is among the best performing districts.
It's actually growing.
It is always number one, and rarely number two in terms of performance. That means there's a leadership at the helm of that district that knows that cardinal duty number one is service delivery to my people. Martin Ojara Mapenduzi works with an NRM mayor. When I spoke to him, he said, I refused on day one to fight him. We sat down and agreed that we will work together. Because while I subscribe to the FDC, I am going to need the ears of the president and the central government. And this mayor, the NRM mayor, is going to be my ear in the central government. What am I saying? The tragedy of Kampala did not just start with the NRM control. Well, they will say he was president, he was above them, but the mayors had absolute powers in this city. That's why the DP allied mayors leased out City Square. That's why they sold roads. That's why they did everything unthinkable. That regime passed. The central government came and said, look, we are amending the law. And I think the tragedy started right there. Actually, the original draft of the KCCA Act did not have the position of an elected mayor. It was negotiated between the Honorable Pereza Ahabwe, State Minister for Local Government at that time, the Honorable Mike Mabike, Arias Lukwago, the Kampala Central MP, and Hussein Chanjo of Machindi. Because these MPs had said, you are subverting the will of the people. Article 1 of the Constitution says, power belongs to the people. So you cannot take away the powers of Kampala people to elect their mayor. And so somehow in that consensus, in that position, and its election was smuggled in. Let's say the law as it is. The battle at City Hall is actually an extension for control of Plot 1, Uganda. Yeah. Forget, I actually look at this lady. I've listened to the Lord Mayor describe her. I've listened to people talk about her. I think the real people, there were two sides hovering over her. And naturally, as a human being, you're going to have to find your fitting. President Yoweri Museveni is on record to say, you people of Kampala, you refused to vote for me, right? You chased me. But I went to the countryside, I got a mandate, and I used it to deal with you. That's why I have abandoned you. That is why I poured dust on Lukwago. I poured water. So all you see is Koforo and Bijegere. That's my president. He looks at the Lord Mayor and sees Koforo and Bijegere. On one side is my brother, Elias Lukwago, who looks at my president, my mayor. He looks at my president and all he sees is a junta, is a dictator, and a regime. Which is a regime that should have left power yesterday. Two extreme sides. Jennifer, appointed by the central government, how to implement two things. One, her technical job as ED. But two, the unwritten jobs of the appointing authority, right? Here she is, Elias Lukwago, Commander-in-Chief of Defiance in Kampala, and chief supporter of presidential candidate, whom he refers to as the people's president, Dr. Kizza Besigye, out to use City Hall as a launch pad for defiance. And then a bushman on this side who is looking and saying, I'm not about to leave power. And here we are discussing Jennifer. Guys, let's look at the real things here. So somewhere in the middle, when I thought the president, who had used the ED to pour water on Lukwago, would stand with her, I stood in shock in Machindia in 2016 when the president said we lost Kampala because of Jennifer.
She was a tough dose.
Now
the medicine was too bitter. We are going to reduce on the bitterness of the medicine. We will deal with it. In Machindia, in Rubaga, 3 places in the city center. And immediately after the president spoke, I told my cameraman, where is Jennifer? Let's walk to her and get what she sees. The ED came and said, Joseph, how are you? And ran into her car, physically running, in heels, ran into her car. For me, that's the day she resigned. Yeah. And so we can discuss personality weaknesses of Jennifer. We can discuss personality weaknesses of Elias Lukwago. But the battle for Kampala is the battle for Plot 1, Uganda. Defiance and its chief activist, Elias Lukwago. And the Bush League, bent on gaining control of the capital, using technical people to do technical work, but also to do politics. Yeah. And when I saw my brother singing the tune, Siku Moja, I woke up and said, what if I wake up tomorrow and Ofono Opondo is the ED? Or Kano Shaban Bantariza? Or Major General Peter Ilwelu? Or General Kale Kaihura? I am just saying, because you are singing. Remember you are singing.
What if it is KK?
What if it is Kale Kaihura? What if it is Major General Peter Ilwelu? What if it is Brigadier Sabit Muzei? Or even General David Muhozi? What is going to happen? As day follows night, there's going to be an ED at City Hall. And the fact that my brother Elias has sung, you wait for the type of ED.
All right, we'll keep looking at that. But
Solomon, you want to look at the functions of the Lord Mayor.
I'll come to you. We'll read them, but let me bring in Milton to Isaac to weigh in on this issue. You've heard the voices here. What are your thoughts and views on Jennifer Musee's resignation?
I think what was sought to be solved by forming KCCA from KCC is exactly what has remained, and it has stayed, and it has failed service delivery in the city, and that's partly politicking. Corruption was one of the others, but politicking was the other, which was very instrumental in the formation of KCCA. And here we are politicking once again. I won't be very different from what maybe Joseph and Josephine did say. The president, the mayor we have right now, who looks at fighting the president. You are in the city to ensure service delivery, but your first point of contact is, let's get this man out. At what point in time is there going to be a balance between your political battles and the service delivery?
Exactly.
And mark you, the political battles have not only been on Jennifer Musisi. This on the Morning Breeze, hosted by Simon, he said, Betty Kamia, who is the minister for Kampala right
He's
now,
the next to resign.
If she doesn't change her behavior, I want to find out which behavior that is, we will call her to order. If we fail to call her to order, the same winds that sent away Jennifer Musisi will send her away. So that clearly shows that there is political battle at KCCA and service delivery. Exactly. Everyone else. Muruli Mukasa. Exactly.
Muruli Mukasa was the only.
He was a little bit civil. But you can see that we don't have a KCCA from both sides, from both the political opposition and from government itself. Government is here saying, look here, yes, probably you have taken up Kampala as opposition, you have failed to elect me into power as Kampala, so I will have city administration taken on by an appointee from my office. That's why you'll find the political wing talking about the failure for devolution of powers as per the KCCA Act. The mayors don't have the powers. Lord Mayor will talk about personalization of Kampala Capital City Authority. She passes the budget. I do not know what happens with the political wing. She passes the budget. She does each and everything, goes to the committee. That too, you are the mayor, political wing leader. You have a technical wing leader. You go to a parliamentary committee and both of you don't even have the same information. What does that mean? Then one of the, the executive director resigns and you begin to sink. And you want the public to think that you have not been fighting political battles. I think that's just lying to ourselves. And I just wanted to let Simon know. When Simon says the ED never respected the Lord Mayor, I do not know what measure he uses. But respect is not earned. It's not deserved. You have to earn the respect. If you have a mayor who is going, like you said, he's going to come out, many people have to call him a crybaby on TV. I'm sorry to say that. But he will always come out and seem to juxtapose KCCA as a place that has failed entirely. Yet you will continue to seek the people's mandate to go into a failed institution. You can't even talk about what you are trying to rectify. But also if Jennifer Musisi, the executive director, says there is lack of support from the political wing, has she and the technical wing as well supported the political wing in the first place? We will ask, how many times has Jennifer Musisi come out with accountability reports where you sit and say, technical wing here, political wing here, what do we have on table? How have we used the budget that we had? Where have the accountability issues from Jennifer Musisi been? Here comes an ED who is invited for council meetings and she never appears, or probably sends a representative. So if she is saying she never had support from the political wing, how much support did she also, as a leader of the technical wing, give to the political wing? It's a two-way traffic thing here. If you both are leaders and are bound to provide service delivery, the cry out of fighting and being failed here and being failed there should get out. You've received 10 million when you needed 50 million. What did you do with the 10 million?
Listen, we also remember the infamous committees that were formed to pass budget. I found that absolutely weird. Do you remember that committees were...
We are discussing the subplots. We are discussing the subplots. Let me give you... I'm sorry to hijack it. Let me give you a bit of historical perspective, right? A protracted battle for the inaugural Lord Mayor's seat happens. The central government machinery out to support Peter Sematimba. Arias Lukwago, backed by the opposition guys, go at it. The election first even gets postponed. We jump through bullets and tear gas. We ran with cameras to inspect the home of an old woman who was allegedly keeping pre-ticked ballots, right? It was such a hectic election to cover. It was one of the most annoying moments of a journalist. We go through that. When Arias Lukwago is elected, his first statement is, I defeated Yoweri Museveni.
I know.
Not Peter Sematimba. This is a Yoweri Museveni who went out guns blazing to make sure Arias Lukwago does not win. And you think this man, who has been able to hold on to the country for 32 years, is going to sit and watch someone who defeated him prosper? You think he's going to appoint an ED apparent to just work on roads and leave Lukwago to do defiance and move with Besigye around the city? So these other things of Tumwebaze, Mpimbaza, Ashaka, Jennifer Musisi,
They were pawns.
they are not pawns as such. They are just part of the puzzle. And I can tell you, as day follows night, President Museveni has his eyes on Kampala. We can discuss technical, the impeachment. We can discuss committees. That's the point.
Okay, guys.
And here's the point. If you want change of government, if you want change of government, just control the capital.
Okay, let me give you one thing and you conclude.
Yeah. That's just wrapping up what we're talking about. We have an obscure ambition for the capital city from both ends. Obscure in the sense that on the surface we'll juxtapose that we are finding an ED to be able to provide service delivery. Then we are electing a mayor because we are respecting Article 1 of the Constitution. But clearly the ambition is who takes control of the power in the capital city. So because of obscure ambitions from both political divides, we're going to remain with this. Trust me.
Rate Musisi as we go for a break.
Rate her upon what?
Had service delivery.
Rate her
out of
upon what?
100.
After telling you that there is an obscure ambition coming in from both sides. So I'm going to rate her on the ambition of the president who is saying, okay, I will fight you.
On what has been
on the
done?
Lord Mayor. No, for me, I think I can't rate the executive director alone. It is KCCA.
She works in a system.
Yes, it is a system.
Okay.
If we are going to rate KCCA has failed, that's clear. KCCA entirely.
Okay, let's rate KCC under her
including
as executive director.
KCCA under
No, but
everyone
is
who
it
there
under her?
as a
I thought that's the
leader.
point of contention because the
But
Lord Mayor is saying
KCCA
it is
even
under
under
me.
KCCA is under
The Lord Mayor is saying it is under
KCCA is under Betty Kazan.
The Lord Mayor is saying it is under me.
Guys, we'll come back to this. Let's go for a break. We'll be right back with much more. Stay with us. Well, it's 8:15 o'clock. You're watching the Media Roundtable live from the Political Command Center here in the capital, Kampala, and we continue to throw some light and analysis on some of the stories that made headlines. Earlier on this week, President Museveni visited Lusanja, where about 350 people were evicted and over 35 houses demolished after the land that is allegedly belonging to city tycoon Chichoncho. You know, I mean, the president was there and he said, this cannot happen. These evictions should stop. As we speak, we had a story that we aired yesterday during NBS Live at 9, talking about the plight of the people who are suffering right now. They are sleeping under tents. They have no toilets. It's sort of a humanitarian crisis there. I mean, the president came there and said these evictions will not continue. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, Chichoncho appeared before the land probe and said, I have every document to support that, to show that this land is mine and I compensated everyone. So I thought that this issue is an issue of national importance, but also in a bigger perspective of evictions that are going on in the country. I'll start with Simon Kagwanjala. You've been
Because
following.
it's Kichoncho.
No, because it's not Chichoncho. But he has been on the morning show. He's been interacting with several stakeholders in this land issue. We wanted to pick your views on what's going on.
First, Solomon, I beg to disagree with you respectfully on the way we accord titles to strangers. You call someone a city tycoon. Chichoncho. What makes him a tycoon?
He can afford 9 acres in Kampala.
I know.
He can evict.
How?
And he can evict.
These are superfluous titles. I think we should
No, but
use
if
them
you-
sparingly.
Okay, give
If
him
you
a
can
title.
afford
Eh?
9
Give him a
acres in the
title.
capital,
I give him a title.
Okay, Ugandan.
you're going to say land grabber.
I was almost there, but I feared the legal ramifications.
But you have implied it already, so you're not legally safe.
There's always been that land question hovering over us, and it stems from one place, goes to another, and comes back to the same place. Why is the presidency too central in every case of a land eviction? It's very central. And this always begs this question. President Museveni normally comes to grieve or sympathize with the families, how they were affected, and promises to follow up. What happens? What normally happens? Is there that crop of Ugandans who are always shielded because of the law? We normally hide behind the law to conduct evictions. By the way, for your information, all evictions are legal.
Not all.
Most.
Okay, 90% of evictions and demolitions are legally done. You secure a court statement. What is it called?
Court order.
A court order. You secure a court order. You go to
bailiffs.
Ask one police officer to give you a funds. They will come. You pick goons from Chisenyi. they'll come and they demolish, clear the place in a matter of time. In just a few minutes, the entire acreage is done. And it's legal. You can't challenge this in court. How come land grabbing is now is legally supported? Without mincing words, there is a bit of land grabbing to a great extent. Someone goes, circumvents the law, or rather uses phony means to obtain land, and it will be his legally. He will own that title, evict people from land. Where does fairness come in? Again, what is also very fundamental, let's look at the president's visit from two sides, the human side and the political side. Let's listen to the president's speech. I think he dwelt more on politics. The area MP because opposition, and you know those lines. You're speaking to grieving families and you're importing your politics to these families. You offer them support and they insist, no, we know the person who is demolishing our houses. Then you play that act.
No, and they mentioned that it was Salim Saleh, and
yes.
he tried to call.
He tried to call Salim Saleh thrice.
And of course, yesterday Chichoncho said no, it's not about Salim Saleh. But guys,
but the undercurrents. I mean, it goes back to the land question that will never go resolved. You will never resolve
my
this.
brother Simon is sounding like the president. He's also concentrating on the politics.
yeah,
no, because I found it disturbing.
Let me go to Samson, because Samson, you've also been closely following on this story. The president comes. Chichoncho says, I have every evidence. I bought this land. I cleared the people who were there, and I have evidence that they were cleared, the Bibanja owners. These people came in 2017. I went to court. I secured a court order. This is my land, and even the president can't stop me.
I'm a little emotive on Martha's land. I used to be distanced from Martha's land until I got involved. Then I started to see things very, very differently. And having...
You always talk about that.
Yes, because it never leaves you. It stays on you. Solomon, when I was saying yesterday, and of course I had a conversation over these matters with the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker Jacob Olanya, who is a lawyer, and we had a conversation going on after the show for about 45 minutes. He sees things from the point of the law, because he is a lawyer. I see things from the point of ethics and morality, and the law doesn't really care about ethics and morals. It just cares about the law. You know why I'm very emotive about this? Because when you're called from a news bulletin and you go home and things are flying out of your house and you have an order maintaining the status quo in your favor, and that is not respected, and police officers are going on to act, and you tell them, look, these are court documents, and they don't want to know, and you're being insulted by a court bailiff who has come to attach property fraudulently of 6 million and is taking things worth 35 million. And you're asking him, can we agree on this? I said, I don't want to know. And there's a DPC who has documents he's supposed to respect. He's not even on the ground. The document says he's supposed to be around. He's not around. You're calling his phone. He's not picking. And somebody who is doing this is saying he owns the land. You have proof he fraudulently owns a title deed. I am asking, if Chichoncho says he owns the land, I have seen people who have title deeds that are fraudulent acting and throwing me out. And the problem with this is they will tell you, the law, go to the law. But if I don't have money to hire a lawyer, I'm done. In Uganda, you are screwed. And you have to have the money to save yourself. If you don't have it, you're done. And the people who do this, no. This is why when they come to throw you out, they make sure they have seen you on TV, anchoring news. So by the time you come, it's too late.
But by the time...
Just a second. But these things are deliberate. Let's do an investigation. And I'd like us to do this, to find out, is the man who holds the title really the owner? And did he get it genuinely? Because there's that bit. I know how these people work. They do, because every time you see, I mean, if you're doing something, just a second, if what you're doing is right, there is an investigation going on. What is the hurry?
Let me tell you this, as in for all purposes of fairness, by the way.
Fairness to who, Solomon?
No, fairness to everyone. Fairness to everyone.
And
because it's important. It's important.
True.
No, it's important that
And
we
I'm
look at
making
both
the
sides of
assumption,
story.
just a second. I am making the assumption, I am working with the assumption that Chichoncho is the rightful owner of the land. That is my assumption. Even if it is my land, because I also have land that has been fairly occupied by people who shouldn't be there. But you see the way I work, call me naive if you want. The way I work, I'm interested in peace. I have ever owned land and somebody just cheated me and I said, look, fine. I bought land 4 years ago. All of a sudden you're changing heart. It has appreciated my money. It's about 100 million and you're now saying you're returning 40 million which you gave me, which I gave you 4 years ago. Is that fair? No. I said, okay, fine. In the interest of fairness, Lord, you see me being cheated. Give me the 40 million. What am I looking for? Peace.
Well, that can be you.
What I am saying is, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying, that if we are going to coexist together as Ugandans, there are certain tough decisions we have to make. In my conclusion, if for any Ugandan, your land and court orders become more important than the lives of 350 people, one of those 350 whose life you have messed
350 homes
is going to make a decision that will be very costly. My daughter told me after all this happened, and that never leaves you, Solomon, as a father. She all her life wanted to become a pilot. You know what she said? Daddy, with tears in her eyes, I'm going to study, become a lawyer and become a judge because this should never happen to any other girl. Those things never leave you. Now you have revenge brewing in the country.
I know, but on the other side, however, we have a person who says,
Why did you trust him?
Pardon?
Why did you trust him? Have you verified the
because
documents? Have you verified the process of acquiring
what
them?
I'm saying is you have a person who says, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
And this person appeared before the land probe.
Why not police?
With documents.
It's okay.
Yesterday.
You are a
Yes,
journalist.
no, I'm just being fair. Like I said, I mean, let's look at two sides of the story.
Social fairness.
Social fairness, exactly. You have a person who says, I'm not running. You said I was running. I'm here. He comes before the land probe, presents his documents and the agreements that he compensated all the Bibanja owners on that land, and he says, this is my land. This is my land. And by the fact that I went to court and presented the same evidence, and the courts granted me a court order to continue with that, this is my land and I need to use it.
Do you know why the Bamgamerera Commission was established? Have you seen anybody come before that commission without a court document? Do you know why they find court the easiest option for an eviction?
So what does that speak
Because
about
I
court?
can tell you,
then
there
saying,
is a proper land grabbing unit in the judiciary. There's a land grabbing unit in the police. There's a land grabbing unit in the judiciary.
I thought protection.
No, land grabbing unit in the judiciary. I will say that without fear of contradiction. There's a land grabbing unit in the Uganda police. Most of the members of that unit are DPCs, very young, wealthy, affluent people who can't account for their wealth.
Yes.
They sit in offices waiting to make deals with shady people. And so the common person who does not have access to the DPC and to the lawyers and to the registrars has nothing to do. I have covered land evictions in Bunyoro. Someone woke up one day and owned 3 villages in Bulisa, where people were born. Remember, you got land from generation to generation to generation. An owner shows up from Kampala with titles, with court documents, with an eviction order being implemented by a UPDF officer in Bulisa. I have documents on my desk. People walk into NBSC and say, I need help. So-and-so is grabbing my land. What's the easiest way to do? Identify it to Haise who can't afford the land grabbing unit of the police, the land grabbing unit of the judiciary, work around it. Then we had a messy, the president suspended Sarah Kolata solely because of the mess in the lands registry. We haven't even investigated what happened there. You will find, you remember the title deed that changed ownership 6 times in 40 minutes?
You remember Savannah's title?
Yeah.
You remember the titles that have 10 owners in 5 minutes? 1 minute Kasumba, next minute to Haise, next. So until we are able to fix those systems, we cannot be referring to court documents and a lawyer's positions as something honest. The land grabbing unit in the Uganda police force has to be dealt with. I looked at Samson the day his family was evicted, and Samson can call the IGP. He can call the CDF. He can even call anybody in court and talk to them.
He actually called Kawesi.
They threw
I
him out.
remember.
They threw him out when he was anchoring news. This is a known person.
Yeah.
What about a John Bosco Okech of Bulisa?
Did you add Bosco?
I said John.
Did you only hear Bosco?
And then here is my problem. Here is my problem. When an eviction is happening and we think there's a problem in it, should it take my president, the president of my country, to come? Where's the Inspector General of Police?
He's the only
Where's
one
the
who can
area?
stop these
Where's the
things.
area RPC?
That's how big these guys
Where's the okay? In the worst of it all, where's the Chief of
Stop or
Defense
hold
Forces?
temporarily.
Why the president? And go back and look at your list. You do a surgical list of potential land grabbers. Who are they? Try to profile them. The people who have been accused of land grabbing,
The so-called tycoons.
either in Kayunga or in Kampala or in Bulisa. Common characteristics. They are close to plot 1. The presidency. 2, they are close to people. Yes, not the presidency as an institution, but they are close to somebody in the presidency. 2, they are close to somebody in the armed forces. 3, they have a land grab from the Uganda police force. Most likely at the rank of a DPC.
All right, guys. Okay,
Solomon,
I just
let me
wanted
add
to.
to
I
that
just
is
wanted
something very important.
In a second.
Yes, they always have systems in the judiciary to issue them.
Don't call them sisters. Those are land grabbing units.
Guys, but also let's
And
look
the
at
laws tell you go to court.
Yeah,
go to court. Go to court. Go to court.
You're telling John Bosco Okech in Bulisa,
Go to
who
court,
doesn't
go
even
to
know
court.
what
but I also
magistrate's court
thought
worker
that
to go to
we can
court.
also look at the other side of the story. That no, it's important because you buy your land, you clearly have a good, clean land title. People just wake up and start doing small
What
things,
clean
and they
land
build
title?
it up.
And
They build structures. They build
350 families to settle for you to realize
Before
that
you
they
know
are-
it,
but,
someone
but,
gets
you,
grabbed
but you
your
know,
land.
Joseph, that these things have happened before. People have bought their land, and there have been people who come just spring up and start building and just doing
It's
like
350
that.
impossible.
families.
It's impossible, Solomon.
It can be possible.
How?
It may
Solomon,
not.
Solomon, let
I'm
me
just
ask
saying
you.
that it can happen.
Solomon, let me
because
ask
it's
you.
important that we be fair.
Solomon.
Solomon,
But,
no,
but
let's
this is
be- let's
just
be realistic.
No, I just
Yeah.
yes, I know. You
Yeah.
guys are saying what you're saying,
Yes.
and I agree with it.
Yeah.
But also you need to look at the other side that people can buy their land, and because they're not using it, people start
Someone
coming
comes
up
and builds
slowly.
on your
Pull
land.
up. It has happened.
Where?
Simon, it has.
No
people
way.
are there. It
No
has
way.
happened. It has happened.
no,
Go and
sir,
look out
after
for
how
it.
long?
But let me bring in Josephine here.
350 houses.
Josephine, because you see, I think it's important for us to understand this Lusanja thing. Because if someone says that they have, okay,
No, we're
the
not
title-
even discussing Lusanja. We are
Yeah,
discussing
at a
the
bigger aspect.
principle.
Yes, the principle.
Yes,
I've
yes.
said
Land
that there are
grabbing.
people,
Because-
there are people who have bought land.
So like,
Joseph,
let me say,
like
let me
100
put-
acres
yeah.
or so.
Let me put this
And
right there.
people come and start staying on that
Let
land.
me-
How do they buy that land?
And eventually, by the time you go back to see your
Solomon.
land, you find someone has started.
No, let me
digging
put
and
this
done-
right there. As a journalist, I do not have the facts on the Lusanja land. I don't have the facts. I've not verified the documents. I have not actually verified the claims and counterclaims. It's Kichoncho's word against the word
principle.
of... Yeah. So I am saying
We need to interpret
we are
Kichoncho's
discussing
word.
the
principle.
principle.
And I agree,
Yes,
and
yes,
I'm
yes.
saying that you can buy your piece of land, and I'm telling you it has happened.
And
like you buy your
encroachers
10
come.
acres, by the time you go back, you find people building on it.
Do you
and
know what
you're
the
like,
land law
what's going
says
on?
after people occupy your land and for how long you will have to
It takes-
compensate them?
Compensate
10
them when they've just come?
It
Yes,
takes 10
if
years.
they stay
10
after
years.
a particular period of time, which
10
is
years,
10
Solomon.
years. For you, you've bought land,
be able to
10 years,
compensate
you're
them.
not doing anything for you.
it's-
For you to be able to compensate me after
I should
sitting
have
on
been
your
there
land.
for 10 years.
should have been
Where
there.
do
But
you
it's
be
my
for
land.
Where
Yeah,
do you
it
be for
doesn't
10
matter.
years for me
It
to
It
lose your
doesn't matter.
land?
That's the law.
If my land has been, if I spend 10 years there, it is my land.
It's the law.
And you have no right to come and settle
But
it.
it is
It
the
is
law.
that simple,
Solomon.
by the way.
It's the
law.
But Josephine, let me bring you in here because land issues are a bit. Okay, Josephine, weigh in on this issue.
She's the only
evictions.
person left sober. So
You know
Our land
what?
is safe.
I wish. You know something?
She does land from very close.
When you look, you know what's interesting is that, let's say about in the 90s, later 80s and 90s, we were looking at people leaving their land or actually selling their land to go to the UK, mostly, or to go abroad. You know, they wanted to get a visa, they wanted to get tickets or whatever, and Tandikwa for when they go, and they were selling this land willy-nilly. Okay, and I'll talk about the land in Buganda because that's I think that's what I know a little more about. So then you at some point all of a sudden, and I'm saying this with a thought in mind, all of a sudden, people are so interested in land.
Yeah.
And it's gone reverse. So from selling and leaving and nobody cares, all of a sudden, everybody's running and grabbing land. Why? To me, that begs the question of what has changed in the intermediate years. And then I have to think about, let's remember what happened in the middle of all this. At some point, the government comes and says, if your land is lying around doing nothing, government has the right to take it, right? To appropriate it for use. Isn't that what happened in the interim? So all of a sudden, everybody wakes up. There's a run on land. Whether they owned it before or didn't own it before. Why? Because they're speculating. Because now I'm thinking of Lusanja. Why did this gentleman wake up all of a sudden? What's special about Lusanja? There must be something going on. The DPCs that we are talking about, all these people that we are talking about, land, from time immemorial, land has always been political.
Yeah.
We look at the wars in Europe. How did they start? In the UK, right? It was all about land ownership. Who owns it? Who controls it? Who controls what goes on that land? So now you look at a place like Lusanja. I've never even heard of Lusanja. So I'm wondering why Akichoncho, from I don't know where, is fighting for this land in Lusanja. Why they even bought it in the first place? Yeah? Is that where they come from? I doubt it. Yeah. I doubt that's where they come from. So what is it? You know me, I like all these things. Like, what is it? There's something. Okay. There you go. Maybe there's one. So now you're having people all of a sudden interested in taking over huge chunks of land, speculating that, you know what? At some point, the government wants this land. And they're not just speculating. They've either heard from somebody who knows somebody, right? That maybe a road is going to pass here. Yeah. That maybe this is going to happen. So now you're having all this run on land going on, right? Now, if that is the case, does that then mean that if somebody, because you have squatters, I understand that. And many people have had problems with that, especially in Buganda. People say, look, like Solomon said, it's my land. Therefore, if I want to use it or not use it, it's my land, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. So there are the people who are like that, right? But then the government is saying, we need it. Yeah, because there's so much pressure on the land. People want to build on it, or people want to grow things. We want to start commercial farming, we want to do all these things. So there's a lot of pressure on it now. So everybody's after this land. But the issue is now, in the Kichoncho case, where did this court order come from? To me, that's a failure.
Process of attaining.
When you hear, you see, what the commissioner was saying, you know, the Judicial Commission, the judge said, there was a mistake somewhere. This person went, you know, behind our backs or whatever, because they'd stopped that process. Yeah. And said, let's investigate. Let's find out who really owns this land, what happened, how was it transferred. But this person was able to get bailiffs and get a court order. So to me, in number one, that's a failure of systems.
Sorry, Josephine, let me ask you. By the time someone goes to the court to secure a court order, he must have communicated to the people sitting on that land.
Who told you that?
Why
must they?
Because you see, you must have proof that you communicated and people refused to do what you communicated them to do. For you to get, if they have told you that you should leave and say, Joseph, I've compensated you, you have until 1 year to leave the land. 1 year elapses, you have not left.
So then here also comes the issue, compensation.
So much faith.
Yeah, there's an issue of compensation also. There are people who've complained that I've compensated them. Then comes the issue of how much have you compensated me?
Fair.
Have you compensated me fairly? You see, because if you say to me, and I remember this is something that my father had a problem with, the issue of, I think, Mvunjo and I don't know what they call the other word. Busuru. Yeah, how do you tell me that as an owner of the land, you're going to give me 100 shillings or 1,000 shillings per acre? Yeah. What foolishness is that? Yeah. Okay? Because that's so little money. What am I supposed to do with that? So if I'm like, you know, someone who had bought my land, exactly, it's the law, but what kind of a law
I'll be paying you Busuru of 10,000 per year.
Okay, so if then that is the law, and I'm saying I've been here, these people are saying we've been here for over 10 years on this land. We've been paying Busuru, apparently. So therefore, Kichoncho, with his land buying, cannot take the land. Or he cannot compensate them at the rate of maybe 100,000 per house or per, you know, because land is also emotional. Yeah. Where I stay, it's about, you may think it's worth 100 million. As far as I'm concerned, it's around
1 billion.
1 billion.
It has more than
Emotion,
money. It has more than
there's that,
money value, culture.
Right.
Sometimes
there's
it's
all
culture.
kinds of things going on. But to me, again, in this particular case, there's a failure of systems.
Yeah.
There's a failure of the judiciary to do their job. There's a failure of the police to do their work. I mean, there's failures everywhere. Like, like Joseph said, where's the
if
DPC?
President Museveni declared it illegal, why wasn't Chichoncha arrested?
No,
that
you
day?
said they're going to investigate.
Investigate. We
Right.
didn't say illegal.
Remember.
But let me bring in Mildred here to weigh in on this issue. Jala, you wanted a landowner herself.
Hope not a land grabber.
Oh, she's a grabber.
No. Of course not. There are two aspects in Uganda that have always played out. There is rule of law and rule by law. You know why we kept saying every other time, it is lawful, that is the law. That is the law. It's because people have now taken advantage of the law and what it says to do whatever. It is lawful because I have obtained a court document. You have court officials who will tell you that I am one and I'm supposed to work in 3 districts. Yeah, so someone's land in a district that is thousands of kilometers from where you are comes and says my land is being grabbed. Before you even go on ground to ascertain, someone in court is already issuing an order for either people to be taken off the land or something like that. They're not being supported. There is inadequate staff even in the judiciary. So that clearly simply aids the land grabbing. No wonder Joseph says there is a land grabbing unit. Clearly because one, people are not on ground. Secondly, you're not even paying them well. Land is the biggest deal you can have in Uganda right now. First of all, it's a finite source. Our population is increasing. The interest in development of various projects and the aspects that come with compensation are as well shifting the land value much way up. No wonder people are fighting for the land right about now. And this is aided better by the naivety of the people, that they don't even know their rights. They don't even have the access to have their rights protected. That's why one will call a DPC, come with a court order, and the naive person down knows, just leave. And that is exactly what is happening with land being taken clearly. If you want to witness what they call clear land grabbing, go to Hoima, go to Buseruka sub-county, go to Bulisa. That is when you will realize that you would be on your land today thinking it's yours, and at night, uniformed men will come and say, this land belongs to so-and-so, so get off. By morning, by dawn, you have to be off this land. Or someone comes and says, I'm buying each and every acre of land you have at 200,000 Ugandan shillings. 200,000 Ugandan shillings. And you have to leave. You either take the money or you don't take the money, but you still go ahead and leave.
But that's
what's happening. That is what's happening.
You see, the thing is this. What I'm saying, and I don't want you guys to look at me like I'm the evil guy here, like I'm the devil here or what. But I'm just saying, on matters of principle, I have bought land, clearly. I own the land.
Yes.
Clean. People have come, squatters have come. They are, okay, Bibanja owners, for starters. I come and we negotiate and I pay them off. And they refuse to get off. And I want to use my land. And I have documents that I compensated them. We agreed they've signed. Why are you still on my land?
You're certainly not going to evict them at night or at dawn.
Why are you still? Okay, issues of land.
Please, in 5 seconds. I spent 10 years on Nasser Road. You know what that means. On Nasser
You're one of them.
Yes, I spent 10 years working on Nasser Road, so I know. I've been on the street in Kampala.
Exactly?
I've been on the street in Kampala. This is what goes on. There are people in this town who ask, who owns that place? Solomon Serwanja. Who is he? He's an anchor at NBS or your tatisa. That Elioturi Sobola. What can we do? And they'll take your land. Now, what we do when you own land today, if you want to keep it, because titles can change. Yeah. If you have land, go to the bank and take a loan, even if you don't need it. That's the only way you can serve it.
You're watching the Media Round Table on NBS television. We take a very short break and we return with much more. Stay with us.
You have clever.
Well, it's about 12 minutes to 9 o'clock. You're watching the Media Round Table live from the Political Command Center, NBS television, as we continue to give you some analysis and context to stories that made headlines with my panelists here. 3 gentlemen and 2 ladies. All right, guys, let's talk about some good news here. Nasser Road.
Ex-Nasser Road.
Ex-Nasser Road. let's talk about the Nile Bridge. Njala, this is something to celebrate, isn't
excited.
it? Are you excited about the Nile Bridge?
Oh, we've always celebrated new things. I always celebrate new things. New restaurants, new
shoes.
You can do housewarming in a Muzigo because it's new. I mean,
But yeah,
fact is, this is a very iconic project.
Did you just say that?
Yes,
said it all week.
it's iconic. I'm amazed. I'm
was warming
amazed.
in Amzigo.
And this time I'm hesitant to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Let the bridge be.
I can see the look on Njala's face. So you feel that it is...
Well, what happens after is another question. We commissioned the expressway. Well, another awesome road. And today, it's the dirtiest.
I just use that road.
I
That
drive.
is a lie.
Listen to
I
me.
use that road.
I
2
use
days
that
back.
road every day. I drove on that road this morning.
Knowledge of the road.
What's
They
dirty
are
about
no
it?
longer
Like, what's the
sweeping
problem?
that road.
What is your frame of reference?
And grass has started growing. So is it becoming a white elephant?
No.
What's happening?
Simon, I saw.
Wait a minute, do they
more
sweep
in UK
roads?
than that.
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
They do.
it's
They
not-
do.
The whole express highway.
By my
They're
judgment.
supposed
Wow.
to.
They're supposed to sweep.
Okay, let me bring in Joseph on this issue because we have about 10 minutes. Your views: 90 billion shillings spent on that road, 4 lanes,
It will last us.
50%
See, if you want to
supported by.
If you want to confuse-
About 80% from the donation, not donation, but a
From
loan
JICA,
from
Japan International.
And we're
If you
supposed to
want-
pay it,
If you
what,
want
40 years?
If you want to confuse a village boy, talk about money. We were moving on the same path until you mentioned 390 billion. And in my village head is thinking what this could have done for the people of Ginger. And, yeah, that's how village minds are wired. You value for money. But I think I want to congratulate the team at UNRWA, led by one of the ladies I respect, not engineer, but Mrs. Allen Kajina. I think it's a tremendous job on their part. Later we can discuss how our children will pay the 390 billion and that's a different case. They have done their part, they were given money for that purpose. The only sad bit during that launch is that someone stole money for feeding. For feeding people who came for the launch.
Like there was no food?
The president came and spoke and people started shouting, Njala, Njala. Then they came and said,
What they were saying, Angela.
we sent someone, we sent money for food to be prepared. you know, when I read about that, and I laughed so hard, and I said, to God be the glory. Uganda is a
At
great
least we
nation.
found something to steal.
Okay, Josephine, your views and thoughts on the new bridge, Nile Bridge.
I think it's a beautiful invention. I don't know if I should
It
call
looks
it
like one of
invention
Boston,
or
if you've
it
been
looks
there. The Boston
beautiful.
Bridge, yeah.
I would have loved to know the thinking behind the bridge in terms of
Value addition.
value addition. It would be nice to know because I've read a lot about it and how beautiful it is, but I've not
do we
read
gain?
much about what the thing. What's its purpose really?
Yeah, Uganda can be
No,
lost.
I
Because-
think actually there is purpose to that.
No, I'm not saying
No,
there's
that's what we
none.
don't understand.
What I'm saying is, more needs to be said about it so that people understand why is this bridge here and how is it going to help our development as a nation or even just that area,
region, yes.
the region itself. Because I did understand the part about the other bridge is no longer useful or is a dangerous thing to use. So now, but then I asked myself, why are we're not going to have toll, what do they call them?
Tolls.
Road tolls on that bridge, which I thought was kind of strange because if we want revenue, right? And government keeps saying they don't have money, they don't have money, they don't have money. Even the fact that this was a loan, it would be a good way to recoup that loan. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but why not? Why not have a road toll on that bridge
Paying back the loan.
to pay back to help us at least pay back the loan, for instance, even for maintenance. Because a lot of
But you
times where
see-
we've
you
failed
see- you-
is with maintenance of things.
Whereas I
you know?
agree with you, but you say challenge is government is supposed to provide this infrastructure for Ugandans to
And
use.
you're supposed to pay for
Because
it.
you see-
Absolutely, but
That's
when
why
you
you pay
provide
taxes.
that
That's why you pay
infrastructure, it's the
taxes.
same thing like, okay, look, that's why you pay taxes. Exactly. But government has had to borrow this money, right? It's 390 billion. And as it is, we have things like OTT. for reasons of saying there's not enough money. So I'm looking at it from that angle. If there's not enough money, why don't we have tolls? I mean, even in the United States, you have tolls everywhere. Why? For the maintenance of those roads. It's for our own good. You understand? Because at the end of the day, if something happens to this very wonderful site, it's so technical and it's all this, who fixes it? You know what I mean? How long will it take to fix it? How will it affect traffic? Will it even affect traffic? So those are just things that I would love to hear more about. How is it going to help Ginger? You know, the area where this bridge is. It's a donation, by the way. It's not a donation, so it will be good.
In 40 years.
Don't you see? So 40 years is not a long time. I'll be what, about 83? So, I mean, it's good to know when government does these things, let us know what it's about, how is it going to help us, so that maybe we can even lend a hand. Maybe, you never know, someone can find a place they can fit in, you know, and do something as well.
Well said. This bridge will last for 120 years.
Yeah.
Lifespan. 120 years, quite a good time.
I'll be gone by then.
You'll be gone by then. Even just let me say,
There'll be a very different cost for the round table. Not even you.
Not even me.
Even though you're young.
Let's talk about, what are your views on the Nile Bridge, Mildred?
I wish I would tell you the question that Simon asked, the other question away from air. But I will keep it. He's positive. He's been positive there.
No, disclosure.
But Simon, you were asking if there are no cracks under, something like that.
I mean, it's just being
You were just being curious. But the bridge is iconic. Looking at a bridge that's looking at transport and looking at tourism at the same time, it's a great thought. It's great to look at it on the surface. But like Josephine was saying, I want to look at the value for money analysis on the road. How much potential do we have there? What's the carriage system on the bridge that we're going to be using? For example, if you're talking about trucks exporting or importing or whatever, how much do we have trucks using that particular road? Tell me about the tourism potential of Ginger and how much more we have had people using Ginger as a tourism destination. It was a city. It was an industrial city. What are we thinking about at the end of the road? Do not excite me about a bridge that has 69-meter pylons and it's going to be changing colors. It's not really about the colors, because the loan that we are going to be repaying back is going to affect the taxes in the long run. Several years down the road. Because then the loan repayment is dependent on the dollar rate. The dollar, you can see, is continuously going up. So if today for that particular loan we're going to be paying 10 billion each and every financial year, probably in the next 4 years we could be paying 50 billion because we pay these loans in foreign currency. We don't pay it in Ugandan shillings. So for me to be able to be excited, super excited about the bridge, I need to look at the economic analysis of the road, get to know how much we are going to pay at the end of the day, how we are going to be able to repay it smoothly. Otherwise, I might be told in the next 5 years, OTT has increased from 200 to 10,000 Ugandan shillings because government is trying to get taxes to pay the massive loans. We are boasting right now because we're still at between 36 to 38% of GDP, the debt to GDP ratio, and we always say, well, it has to be 50 for you to be in the red light. You do not know how long it would take us with the very ambitious infrastructural developments, how long it would take us to hit the 50%. But in a nutshell, on the outside view, Carl from Kinuma, Masindi, it's beautiful. I and Simon are planning to go and take selfies, probably.
Samson, wrap this up in a minute.
Well, for those of us who studied theology, I think the story of the prodigal son comes to mind. If you have a 32-year-old son who should be in the prime of his life, doing all the good things, preparing to get married, building his house, but then along the course of the 32 years, he's taken drugs, hung around the wrong people, done all sorts of the wrong things. Eventually, when he comes home, and after messing himself up, he has a clean bath. As a parent, you celebrate it. You shouldn't be celebrating it because this is a 32-year-old son in the prime of his life. But because of how far he's taken himself down, you start to celebrate certain things. Should you be celebrating them? Yes. Because this is a boy who had gone so bad and he's done something good. So I think because of how bad we have done here, just having a bridge done that doesn't crack is a big thing in Uganda because a bridge can be eaten. Now, when it is not eaten, that is a huge celebration in this country because we have the ability to eat bridges. So please do not refuse to celebrate a bridge because in Uganda, we could have had that money and no bridge.
Okay, all right, guys, let's wrap this up. Let me give you my views on that bridge. I think it's a, and Joseph is looking at me like, this positive man. Okay, okay. No, I really think it's a good addition to us as a country.
Yeah, it is.
And, I mean, the other old bridge has taken quite, when was it constructed?
1954.
1950s.
And it exists.
Up to now.
Yeah.
And it's still existing up to 2018.
I hope it doesn't exist beyond the new one.
And it's good. You know what? Like I'm really positive about this bridge, and I'm sure it can stand. It could be the next image of Uganda. You know how we know the
next big thing.
Speaking of the next big thing, we celebrated the next big thing, and we launched Next Radio and Next Radio there, and I mean it was a big thing. So Joseph Sabit will be hosting one of the shows on Next Radio. But Joseph, talk to us about your show. What can we look to? I'm giving you the space. Can you host us? I'm giving you space on My Media Roundtable show to market yourself. On Next Media.
Thank you.
So talk to me. Talk me about that.
The Villager appreciates. Saturday 9 to 11. There's been a lot of concern about the voices of the young people being left out or in the media space. When we're talking politics, development, a lot of times we bring the gray-haired men, and I have been bombarded saying myself, Solomon, Mildred, we have not done enough to give space to the young people. So Saturday, starting tomorrow 9 to 11, we'll be talking from the perspective of the youth. And so I will be discussing the issues through the lenses of the young people. The inaugural show starts tomorrow.
What's the age bracket for young?
You definitely don't fall.
Anything below 99.
You're out.
As Uganda, at 52, you are UID.
So the show is called The Big Talk.
So it's called The Big Talk, 106.1. But also you can, we took over Jazz FM.
Yeah.
You can also listen. The app is up and running. You can download it.
Android.
Yeah, and
Is it also on iPhones or it's still on Android?
You're asking a villager about iPhones. and so you can listen in from any part of the country. I think in a couple of days, 106.1 Next Radio will be on Star Times. You can watch.
It's actually visual radio.
It's an audio-visual radio.
Yeah,
so whatever happens in studio, you can actually watch. And it's a great team. I've been dancing in my car all along. I think our boss Marcus is doing a good job with the team.
When Joseph starts to dance, then you know that it is a really a good
also
thing.
given
The next big thing.
So
it's a visual radio.
Audio-visual,
Visual there.
It's been 7 years out of radio. I'm trying to get my touch back.
Yeah, I'm actually also still negotiating for space. I hope I get one. On Sunday, 6 to 10. So I'll be doing something. But anyway.
I and Josephine are part of 20% of this population. We have to deal with it.
All right, guys. Many thanks. Thank you, guys. And we're looking forward to your show tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And of course, also, just to say something that Ondum Paraka versus KCCA will be live on Sanyuka TV, so be sure to watch that match. Let's go and support. Let's go and support our football live from Arua. So Joseph here, Ondum Paraka.
And by the way, since you've mentioned it, the club is buying a bus. So everyone.
Can you say that in?
Everyone is supposed to contribute 10,000.
Can you say that in local language?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 60,000.
Make the appeal in local language.
Let me give you a chance.
It's called corporate begging.
Let me give you a chance to speak to viewers in West Nile language.
Because
I like the way
the sound of it.
Please look in that camera.
I know what you want to do, and I'm not going to fall in that trap.
Look in that camera.
10,000 for the club.
Look in that camera, Joseph, and speak to the people of Arua to go and watch the match.
Inspire the language. This is for the club.
But you have anything. So I'll give you a chance to
Solo, you're dodging the money.
No, but that's the whole money. Yeah.
No. That's my contribution to Odupanaka.
All right, Joseph, I'm giving you an opportunity.
Yes.
Look in that camera and make an appeal in the West Nile language and tell people to come and watch the match.
And there are very many people in Masindi will understand what
you're saying.
Go on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know you're trapped, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Which language particularly?
Any. As long as
West Nile language. Any that
30.
you can speak.
Jazz.
Look in that camera
okay.
and yes.
Joseph, I protect you.
Simon Kagwanjala, fe elf kaltoi basi ondo para kanire jezu so badri amane ba ikadri benga pi West Nile ya mi Kampala mi Jinja mi Masindia the club ondo para kanibasi je ikaito elf mudrife sende da nitraro babasi je ikadri arua Andrew ondo para ka niavi KCCA FCP at the Green Light Stadium so amuki support fair anja kwa repini. Did you understand?
I could only hear
All right, thank you very much for being part of the Media Roundtable. Be sure to catch us next week. And we love you all. Enjoy your weekend. From all of us at NBS, have a good weekend.